Hey guys.
No cuts.
Hey guys, we're the EBK RANS, and we read A Lesson Before Dying by Ernest. I'm Matt Perkins.
I'm Maddox Taylor.
James Petty.
And I'm Will.
Alright, so let's start off with the opening question. What were you guys' overall thoughts on the book?
I mean, I thought it was a really good book. I thought it was very powerful in its messaging on racism, injustice, and the impact of education. I like that the author, Ernest Gaines, kind of related to his own personal life, as well as, you know, some real events. The story was kind of followed based on the trial of a guy who got falsely accused of murder and electrocuted. But then I like that he related to his own life because he really liked radio and books, and he kind of put that in Grant Wiggins' character too.
Yeah, I'm gonna follow up on that, and I think he definitely related it to his life because, like, he experienced racism in his life, and he kind of showed that through his book, through the compelling story of how, you know, Jefferson was falsely accused because, you know, he was poor and black.
Yeah, and like the main message I kind of got from the book is like you kind of have to find out who you are yourself before you can find it in someone else. Like that main thing about him trying to teach Jefferson how to become a man, and he's just like insecure about that, and he feels like he can't teach that upon Jefferson because he's not even sure if he's a man himself. Yeah.
What do you think, Jay?
I thought it was a pretty good book. You know, it kept me intrigued the whole time. I read the book.
On your toes?
Yeah.
Kept you on the edge of your seat.
Yeah, the whole time, basically, because, I don't know, Jefferson, he was just falsely accused and, like, should have done that. I feel like if he was white, it would have been a whole different story. And, like,
No, yeah, it kept me intrigued too. It was just like very like interesting events. There was never really like a dead spot in the book. Really like the way it was written.
Yeah, speaking of Jefferson, how did you guys like the ending of the book?
So, like, I feel like it was pretty unjust that they killed him because, you know, he didn't even murder anybody. The only thing he did was he stole the money afterwards. But, you know, that's just due to his economic situation.
Yeah,
He was so poor, like, he had to survive.
Yeah, it was like mentioned multiple times. He said he didn't have a solitary dime, so I think it was just his like financial situation. But like stealing some money from a convenience store doesn't deserve anywhere near like execution. Or, like, electrical
And the
chair.
author also said like he knew stealing was wrong, but he just felt like he had to do it. So, you know, he had a good heart.
Yeah.
I liked it.
I was disappointed that he did end up getting electrocuted, but we actually in cinema we just watched a movie called Just Mercy. And,
Just like it, right?
Yeah, it was kind of similar, and I was hoping that, you know, at the end it'd be like, oh, he didn't, like, he kind of got saved from.
Yeah, I was hoping it was gonna be a good ending.
Yeah, but I think, you know.
Yeah, that's the movie I was thinking of throughout this book.
Yeah. What else do you guys have?
That's all for that. How do you guys feel like your lenses were like incorporated into this book?
I think through my psychological lens, Grant Wiggins kind of was really easy to like analyze through that lens. He had a lot of like struggles with his identity and like finding his purpose in life, and like him helping out Jefferson a lot. I was going through this website that Landis gave us on like all the psychological theories, and I saw this guy named Eric Erickson, and he had the role of identity versus role confusion, and it's kind of where you ask yourself like, who am I? As you're growing up, you learn more about your goals and your values.
So for me, I feel like my lens was the economic lens, and I feel like Jefferson definitely was the character that most related to that lens because, you know, he was really poor, like Matt said earlier. He didn't have a solitary dime to his name, and he was kind of like faced an unfair trial just because, you know, he was super poor, and also he was black in the 1940s in America, so he never really faced a fair trial, and they never really gave him a fair shake.
Yeah, for me, in the sociological lens, I didn't feel like there was really like a specific character that related to it. It was just kind of like the society and like the time of the book that it took place itself. It was just like you quickly understand who the minority is, and that it's like a very white ruled society, and that like racism and like prejudice is like very like intense in this time.
Yeah.
So I feel like it was more correlated to like the society and like the time more than just like a specific character.
For sure.
For me, I had the feminine lens,
Right.
and I feel like for me it was just like mostly all the female characters, like Vivian, Jefferson's aunt, and the godmother.
Miss Emma, yeah.
Yeah, they all like wanted to help Jefferson out. They like visited him in the jail cell, try to like help him food and convince him that he's like just more than a animal or a hog. And, like just want to help him out.
Okay. Yeah, like that.
Yeah, and they really focus on like that hog thing the whole time. So why do you guys feel like Jefferson is referred to, like they really like harp on that idea of just him being like a hog? Like they bring that up like multiple times.
I didn't notice that.
So basically, I think it was because, you know, people back then, they viewed black people as like, it was very, very racist. They viewed black people as like lesser humans.
Yeah.
Thought they were all like stupid, more inferior to white people. So I think his attorney knew that, so he just tried to tell them that like, oh, he's just a hog, he's
tried
too
to appeal to
stupid
the
to plan a
court more.
murder. Yeah, he's trying to appeal to, you know, his audience.
Yeah, I thought, especially his attorney, it was kind of like a pretty offensive and like misguided attempt to like kind of show him as like an animal who couldn't do this type of thing because he was so like stupid or, you know.
Yeah, they were just like really dehumanized back then, like thought of as like less than a human.
Yeah.
So I think that's just kind of like to put into perspective like how like colored people were thought of back in like the 1940s.
Alright, so I have a question. So,
Okay.
what social issues do you guys think were like most prevalent in the book?
Racism, for
Yeah,
sure.
Racism
sure,
for
racism,
sure, yeah.
obviously. I feel like that was pretty apparent in like the first few pages.
I think poverty is also a big one. You know,
Yeah.
none of them were really rich except for like the white people.
Yeah.
I think it showed like racial injustices throughout not only the courtroom but also in like the community and also in like the school and the education. So I mean, I think it was really just based on racism. I think I liked what's his name, Deputy Paul.
Yeah.
I think he was a really good character to add to the book. I think I have on chapter 17, chapter 18, and chapter 31. Miss Emma referred to Paul as being from good stock, so he was like a really like good character for the black community. He was really the only white person in the book who like felt any like sympathy or empathy for the black community.
Yeah, and just kind of adding on to, like you could tell, like a lot of them were like below poverty and stuff. On page 45, it says, after leaving the quarter, I drove down a graveled road for about 2 miles. There were houses and big live oak and pecan trees on either side of the road. Instead of houses, there were fishing wharves, boat docks, nightclubs, and restaurants for whites. So I think that just kind of like the way that like Grant is wording that shows that he's not used to any of that at all, showing like he didn't grow up in that kind of stuff at all. So it just kind of shows you how like different it was, like for where like whites and like colored people would live.
Yeah,
Just kind of like
it really shows you like what the white people have and like what the black people
how
like don't
minimal
have.
it was. Just something that's like boat dogs.
Uh-huh.
That, like they would be looking at.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to add, James?
I think we covered it all.
Just going back to the whole book overall, the title, A Lesson Before Dying, do you guys think there's like a deeper meaning to that? Like, what do you think there is?
Deeper meaning? I don't really think so. I think it really is just like saying that there is a lesson to be learned before dying. Like,
Like it's never too late.
yeah, it's not like a certain lesson. I think it's just like throughout your life you're always learning lessons.
I think
So,
it's also like there's, you know, Grant was trying to teach him a lesson about
Yeah.
being
Yeah,
a
I
man
think the
throughout
lesson
the
is
whole
definitely-
book.
And how
Yeah,
he's just more than an animal and
Yeah.
not just some black, like, useless human in the world who can't do anything.
yeah, I think not just only Jefferson either. I think you know, Grant and Tante Lou and all of them. I think the theme of the whole novel was just like revolving around the idea of personal growth in the face of adversity.
Yeah.
So I mean,
I like that. Yeah, that's good.
So how do you guys think Grant affected Jefferson's last couple months of living?
that's a good question.
That was a good
Great
I
question.
feel like it definitely like what we were kind of just going over, like definitely showed Jefferson that he like is more than like a hog.
Yeah.
Is what they refer to him as a lot, and that like his life like has importance. Like even though he's gonna die in the next couple months or however long it was, like there's still something worth living for or learning before, and it just shows like, yeah, the importance of that.
Yeah, I think it was really important seeing Grant like kind of like serve like a light in the dark for Jefferson. Kind of like fostered his self-discovery and like kind of affirmed his worth because, you know, like you said, they just kept calling him a hog and, you know, like putting his self-esteem down.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, Grant being able to like help Jefferson out was like a good process.
Yeah, you could tell that really got to Jefferson's head.
Yeah.
They like, you know, degraded him and called him a hog. And Grant kind of like saved him from that.
Yeah.
Even though he was gonna die, like at least he died knowing he's like a real person.
Yeah.
He's like worth something.
Yeah, and even Grant himself kind of got like, because he was feeling down, he was feeling kind of depressed, and he was able to help Jefferson out, and I feel like he kind of, you know, got some personal growth from that too.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Kind of like a role model, at some sort to Jefferson.
And I feel like even though like with the circumstances, Jefferson needed Grant. Grant also needed Jefferson, you know, because he gave him a purpose. He was like, he reaffirmed his abilities to be a man.
Yeah, and just another question while we're like on Grant and stuff. How do you guys think Grant like grew up? How his like family was and stuff like that? Through all the internal conflicts he faces, like he has a really hard time expressing himself and like expressing it the right way. Yeah, do you guys think he had like a rougher time growing up that like led to his emotional problems, or where do you guys think that like
I think he
rooted
probably
from?
did. I think it rooted from, you know, him being like just growing up in a society where he's like degraded by white people. You know?
For sure.
And he's like struggling to like talk about it or like doesn't want to express it. He probably had a rough life growing up too.
I actually have another question. How do you think that Jefferson's perception of himself evolved throughout the book, and then how do you think that it relates to his like sense of worth?
I feel like at first, when he was like presented with the task of teaching Jefferson how to become a man, it was like he like wasn't sure if he was at all. But I feel like throughout the book, he kind of like it opened his eyes a little more. Like he is more of a man than he really thinks he is. He just didn't realize it at first, and he kind of just grew that like feeling for himself like over time.
Yeah, and they also said in the end of the book when he was walking up on his execution day, when he was walking up to the chair, I think it was the sheriff said like he was the strongest man in the room on that day.
Yeah.
So it really showed that Grant did help him because he went from thinking he was a hog, like an animal, to being like, you know, a strong man.
And throughout like Jefferson's whole trial, like from the beginning to the execution, do you think him being an African American male like affected that whole situation?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah,
I think that was kind of the whole focus of the book was him being unfairly treated just because of the color of his skin. And then like calling him a hog, like for the first trial, the first chapter, like it's already like reinforcing those stereotypes of him being a black man, and then also just like aiming to, you know, put him down, like we kept saying, calling him subhuman and like incapable of committing any crimes.
Do you think there was a reason for them specifically saying hog, or do you think that's just like an animal they referred to him as? Or do you think there was like something specific about like hogs or something that related to like colored people?
I feel like we kind of touched base on that already, but it was really just like putting him down as a subhuman.
Yeah, it's like dehumanizing him.
Yeah.
Like an animal couldn't kill someone. That's pretty much what they're saying. Like a hog could not kill someone.
Yeah.
So I feel like the attorney was trying to like attempt to make it look good, but really just saw the bad in him.
Going back to how we were talking about the trial and like if it was manipulated. I want to say I'd say because like they were like back in the 40s. They weren't like they were pretty racist, and like I feel like just getting like trying to what's the word, like if a black man or woman like does some like even some small crime, they try to get them like locked up.
Does it kind of make it something bigger than it is?
Just because of their skin color.
Yeah, and back then, like the whole like the police and like the whole court and everything, they were all white, so it was like almost impossible whether there was proof of evidence of you doing the right thing, it was almost impossible to turn it back around.
Right.
And also, in the beginning of the book, when Grant goes to visit the sheriff, the sheriff.
We thought Earl just took over.
Anyway, the sheriff still.
That was crazy.
You know, the sheriff, despite Grant being an educated man, the sheriff. We gotta walk it. Yeah, despite Grant being an educated man who went to college and is I guess lock you in. The sheriff still makes him like take his glass and do his dishes and like refill his glass of water. So that really shows that, like, even though Grant's educated and he's a man, he's grown, like they still view him as subhuman despite maybe even having a more of a education level than a lot of white people.
Yeah. So we're kind of nearing the end. Do you guys have like any other like questions you want to add or like clarifications that you didn't really understand about the book? Or like, did your perspective change about the whole situation from the beginning to the end, or did it just like end how you expected it?
Not really like any questions or anything about the book. I was like writing my prep last night, and I was kind of researching about the book, and I found out that, like I said, it was based on a true story, but also,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't know it was based on a true story.
Yeah, it was about a guy named Willie Francis who was sentenced to electrocution in 1945 in Louisiana.
For something as small as this.
Yeah, it was something
Was
small.
it similar to that it was a robbery that they tried to accuse him of?
I think it was a robbery, but I'm not actually 100% sure. But I think the coolest part was that the author related it to his own life. Like, he loved music and radio and books, and he kind of put that in Grant's character.
Yeah.
And also, Ernest Gaines, who lived on a plantation himself, and he said that him and like a bunch of the other, slaves and workers would like come together on some nights and just listen to the radio and dance together. And that kind of like helped him shift his mind off of
And I think
the harshness he was facing.
Gaines adding like stuff from his personal life into Grant just like made it more realistic and like was able to make Grant's character like more developed, as it like was basically himself he was putting in the book.
Right.
Yeah. But there was a little bit of hope. Like once I read the first couple chapters, that hopefully at the end that Jefferson would be like the trial would be turned around and there would, like, he would be freed and they would like find out that it actually wasn't him. But it didn't end like that, so that was kind of like not how I expected it. But for the time frame, I guess it could make sense.
Yeah, I was definitely hopeful that they would end up not killing him. But unfortunately, it's not happening.
And for me, reading like the last, honestly, the whole book, I just couldn't imagine living in that time period, being like a colored man. Because like, I don't know, you get treated like so harshly and like,
No matter how successful you are, popular, who your parents were.
How Grant being a successful teacher, he was still facing.
You guys have any other questions, comments?
So I have a question. So throughout the book, Grant always talks about leaving and going somewhere else. He talks about going to California. So why do you think Ernest added that in the book, that Grant wanted to always leave? And
he mentioned he feels like he's not living here. So I think he feels like there's more opportunity or less like racist towns out there. So he just wants to like get to his full potential almost. If he's already a teacher in like a really like racist town that like doesn't favor black people whatsoever, then I feel like he feels like he can do so much more somewhere else. He's just in the wrong place.
I think through his psychological lens, I think it kind of portrays him just being lost of himself too, because he was kind of lost in his own community. And he kind of just wanted to figure out what he's supposed to do, and I feel like that's what he was trying to do. Even fostering Jefferson, he was trying to find himself too.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with Matt. Like through like an economic lens, like there are definitely more opportunities in other cities and states that are a lot less racist, where he can grow his career. And also, why do you guys at the end of the book when Jefferson gets executed, why do you guys think Grant didn't go? Didn't want to go to the execution?
Open Wicks Squad. I feel like he would have like, yeah, it just would have been too hard to see like someone.
Time spent with him.
Yeah, because they definitely like grew their relationship when Jefferson was in prison.
He was one of your like best friends too.
Yeah.
My teacher.
Yeah.
Right.
So like, wrap it up, kind of off topic, but like, who was your favorite character?
I like Vivian.
Like Vivian.
Yeah, she was just like, she was like,
Yeah, she was real.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just gonna say Grant. He was like really the man.
Grant
was
the
almost the
antagonist.
whole book.
Grant stood on business.
For sure. He was just like,
Who's your character?
Mine was Grant. You know, he just seemed like a good guy trying to just help some man in need of help.
Speaking on that, do you guys feel like any like personal, what's it called?
Connection.
Yeah, to any of the characters? It'd be kind of hard because this was like
Yeah.
60 years ago.
Yeah.
80 years ago.
Personally,
I didn't feel much.
Yeah, I didn't
Personally,
feel
would
any
say
personal
this
connections.
book really related to me, but it was still a great book.
I'd read it.
Yeah, I think it was very worth the read and opened your eyes to how difficult it was back then. But
Yeah, for
Definitely.
sure.
yeah,
I was kind of scared, you know, reading a 32 chapter
Yeah.
book. I was kind of like,
but I feel
oh,
like
man.
it being split up into
But
more chapters helps out.
It
like,
was worth the read.
Yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
Other than that, I don't have any more questions. Anything
Yeah, I
else?
think I'm all good.
We covered everything.
All right,
We're
EBK
EBK Ran.
out.
Everybody knows.
Everybody knows to read and analyze the novel.
The novel. Study.
BK Rams.
Thank you very much.